There are moments in life when it feels like everything is falling apart. The job you thought was secure begins to crumble. The relationships you relied on shift in ways you never expected. And the routines that once gave you comfort suddenly feel empty. It's easy to believe that something has gone terribly wrong. But what if? What if this unraveling isn't the end, but the very beginning? Sometimes, life doesn't shout its changes from the rooftops. There's no dramatic lightning bolt in the sky. No cosmic trumpet sounding your arrival at a new chapter. More often, it comes quietly. It arrives in the subtle restlessness you've been feeling. In that mix of exhaustion and strange excitement you can't quite explain. It's like carrying an invisible weight on your shoulders for so long that you've forgotten what it feels like to walk freely, until one day, almost without realizing it, you begin to let go. If you're here, watching this, listening to these words, I want you to know it's not by accident. There's a reason you pressed play. There's a reason these words found you at this exact moment. The universe has a way of arranging these encounters when we're standing at the threshold of transformation. This isn't coincidence. This is alignment. What's happening right now is more than just a shift in your outer circumstances. It's not only about a new job, a better relationship, or more abundance in your life. Though those things may come, no, this is deeper. This is an invitation to step into a higher frequency of being, to awaken to who you truly are, beneath all the stories you've been told. Imagine for a moment that your life is like a river. For years, you've been swimming upstream, fighting against the current, exhausting yourself just to stay afloat. Now, the current is turning. It's beginning to flow in the direction your soul has always wanted to go. But here's the thing, the river won't drag you forward. You have to stop resisting. You have to trust enough to let go, to let the water carry you. That's what this moment is asking of you. Not more struggle, not more control, but surrender. You see, this threshold you're standing on isn't just about what's happening outside of you. It's about what's awakening inside of you. There's a deeper intelligence at work here. Something far greater than your logical mind can comprehend. While you've been busy trying to figure things out, life has been quietly rearranging itself on your behalf. Every loss, every disappointment, every moment that felt like failure, they've all been shaping you, preparing you for exactly this. And now, you're being asked to see yourself not just as a passenger in this reality, but as the one who creates it. You are more than the roles you play, more than the titles you've been given, more than the fears that have kept you small. There's a part of you, a vast, infinite part, that has been waiting for you to remember it. So take a breath, feel the ground beneath you, feel the quiet pulse of life moving through you. This isn't the end of your story. This is the beginning of a new chapter, one where you step out of survival and into creation. The world around you may look the same for now, but inside, something profound is shifting. You are standing at the doorway of a quantum leap. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, right now. And all you have to do is walk through. 1. Signs of transformation. There comes a point on this journey when the world begins to speak to you in a language you never learned, but somehow understand. It starts subtly, like a soft whisper in the background of your daily life. You glance at the clock and see the same numbers repeating 11, 11, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3. At first, you might laugh it off, thinking it's just coincidence. But then it keeps happening, over and over, as if something or someone is gently tapping you on the shoulder, saying, "Pay attention. It's not just numbers." Maybe you find yourself in a conversation with a stranger, and somehow, they speak the exact words you've been wrestling with, in silence. Or you open a book at random, and the sentence on the page feels like it was written just for you. Perhaps a song plays on the radio, and its lyrics echo the questions you've been asking deep inside. These are not accidents. They are invitations. You see, when your inner world begins to shift, your outer world starts to respond. The universe is like a mirror, always reflecting back to you the frequency you're carrying. When you've been stuck in fear, doubt, or survival, that's what you see reflected all around you. Closed doors, heavy energy, missed opportunities. But when something inside you begins to soften, when you begin to open, even just a little, the reflection changes. At first, it feels almost magical, and in a way, it is. But there's also a very simple truth behind it. Every thought, every feeling, every belief you hold has a vibration, a kind of signal you send out into the field around you. When that signal shifts, the world cannot help but rearrange itself in response. This is why certain people suddenly appear in your life at just the right moment. This is why doors open that you didn't even know were there. It's not because you're lucky. It's because you've become aligned. I know how easy it is to doubt this. I've been there too. There was a time when I thought life was random, that these synchronicities were just tricks of the mind. But looking back, I can see how precise it all was. How every coincidence was a thread weaving me toward a greater pattern. When you start to notice these threads, you begin to trust the process more. You stop feeling like you have to force everything into place. And you start to see that there is a deeper intelligence at work, one that has been with you all along. These signs are like lanterns on a dark path. They don't show you the entire road, but they light up the next step. When you see them, pause, breathe, acknowledge them. Let yourself feel the quiet reassurance they bring. This is the universe saying, you're not alone. Keep going. As your energy continues to rise, the signs will multiply. Life will feel less like a struggle and more like a dance. You'll begin to sense a rhythm guiding you forward, and you'll realize you don't have to fight the current anymore. Instead, you can let it carry you because now you are flowing with life, not against it. And that is the beginning of true transformation. 2. The power of decisions in the present. There's a quiet moment, often overlooked, when everything can change. It doesn't come with fireworks or grand announcements. It's just you and a single choice, a breath, a pause, a whisper deep inside that says, this is the moment when you make a decision from the deepest, truest part of yourself. You're doing more than simply picking a path forward. You're shifting the entire landscape of your life. You're saying yes not only to a future you cannot yet see, but also to every step that brought you here. It's as if time itself bends around that moment, rearranging the past so that all the pain, all the confusion, all the detours suddenly have meaning. I've lived through choices like this. There was a time when my life felt like a tangled mess, like a puzzle with missing pieces. I couldn't understand why certain things had happened, why I'd lost so much, why the road seemed so uneven and unfair. But looking back now, I see it differently. It's like standing on a mountaintop and finally seeing the valley below. From above, the twists and turns make sense. What once felt like chaos reveals itself as perfect design. That is what happens when you make a decision from your heart instead of your fear. In that instant, you stop fighting your past. You stop wishing things had been different. Instead, you begin to see how everything, yes, even the heartbreak, even the mistakes, was preparing you for this exact moment. Think about it like this. Imagine your life as a vast tapestry, threads woven over many years. When you're up close, all you see are random colors and knots. It doesn't look like anything at all. But step back, and suddenly you see the pattern. That single decision you make now is like stepping back for the first time. The picture comes into focus, and you realize that even the darkest threads were essential to the beauty of the whole. Making a true decision doesn't require you to know every step ahead. It only asks you to choose the next step with clarity. When you do, life responds in ways you couldn't have planned. Doors open, people appear, Resources you didn't know you needed find their way to you. It feels almost like magic, but it's really alignment. Here's the part that surprises many people. A decision made in the present can actually heal the past. It's not that the events themselves change, but your relationship to them does. The old wounds no longer define you because you see them differently. You realize that what once felt like a dead end was actually a bridge. What once felt like punishment was preparation. I want you to feel the freedom in that. You are not bound by what happened yesterday. You are not trapped by the roles you once played or the mistakes you made. Every breath you take is a chance to begin again. So if you're standing at a crossroads now, take a moment to listen inwardly. Set aside the noise of what others expect from you. Tune into that quiet, steady knowing that lives beneath the fear. Then, make your choice not from desperation or pressure, but from truth. When you do, something remarkable happens. The weight of the past begins to lift, and the future opens wide before you. You start to realize that life isn't something happening to you, it's something happening through you. And in that single moment of true decision, you step into your power as the creator of your own story. 3. The role of resistance. There's a moment on every path of growth when the world seems to push back. Just when you begin to rise, just when you start feeling lighter, freer, and more alive, something happens. A harsh word from someone you love, an unexpected obstacle, a sudden wave of doubt crashing over you. It can feel like life itself is testing you, like the universe is asking, "Are you sure you want this?" I used to see these moments as punishment, as if I had done something wrong. But over time, I've come to understand that resistance is not here to hurt us. It's here to reveal us. It shows us where we are still holding on to the old, where our faith is shaky, where our patterns are deeply rooted. It's not the enemy, it's the mirror. Think of it like climbing a mountain. As you ascend, the air gets thinner. Your body must adapt to the higher altitude. At first, you feel dizzy and weak. You might even want to turn back. But this isn't a sign you're going the wrong way. It's a sign you've reached a new level, and your system is adjusting. Resistance works the same way. It shows up right at the edge of transformation, whispering all the reasons why you should go back to where it's safe and familiar. When your energy begins to rise, the environment you've been living in will react. Old relationships may feel strained. Situations that once seemed comfortable suddenly feel heavy or out of place. Even the thoughts in your own mind can become louder, as if they're trying to pull you back into old ways of being. This isn't a cosmic mistake. It's a natural part of change. I remember a time when I was stepping into a new chapter of my life. Everything inside me felt ready, but the world around me didn't agree. Friends who once supported me started questioning my choices. Unexpected problems appeared, almost as if out of nowhere. At first, I doubted myself. I thought, maybe this is a sign I should stop. Maybe I'm making a mistake. But then, in a moment of quiet reflection, I realized the truth. The turbulence I was feeling wasn't a warning to turn back. It was proof that I was moving forward. Resistance often shows up the strongest, right before a breakthrough. It's like a final gatekeeper, asking, do you really want this new life? Are you willing to let go of who you've been, to become who you truly are? When you can see resistance for what it truly is, something shifts. Instead of fighting it, you begin to meet it with compassion. You start to notice that even the people who seem to push against your growth aren't trying to harm you. They're simply reflecting the frequency you used to carry. They are clinging to the version of you they've always known. And when you change, it unsettles them. The key is not to take it personally. Like a storm passing through, resistance has its own cycle. If you can stay centered, breathing deeply, holding steady, it will eventually dissolve. What remains on the other side is clarity and strength. So when the road feels rough and everything seems to push back, pause for a moment. Remind yourself, This is not punishment. This is confirmation. It's the universe showing you that you are no longer who you once were. And when you walk through that resistance with an open heart, you'll find that the very walls that seem to block your path were actually guiding you toward the doorway of your own transformation. 4. Recognizing your true nature. There comes a quiet, humbling moment on this journey when you realize that all your striving, all your pretending, all the masks you've worn, none of it was ever truly necessary. You start to see that the version of yourself you've been hiding, the one you've kept tucked away, out of fear of judgment or rejection, is actually the very gift the world has been waiting for. For so many of us, this truth is hard to accept. From an early age, we learn to fit into roles, to play parts that make others comfortable. We become who we think we should be: dutiful child, responsible adult, reliable friend, dependable worker. Piece by piece, we build these layers around ourselves like armor, believing that if we just play the role well enough, we'll be safe, we'll be loved, we'll be worthy. But deep inside, beneath all that performance, there is another self, a quieter, truer self. Maybe you felt it stirring inside you, like a soft glow behind a heavy curtain. Maybe you've caught glimpses of it in the moments when you're completely alone, or when you're doing something you truly love. It's that version of you that feels free, light, and whole, without needing to prove anything to anyone. For years, I ran from that part of myself. I thought it was too strange, too intense, too much for the world to handle. I buried my dreams and desires under a mountain of shoulds and musts. And yet, no matter how hard I tried to silence it, my true nature kept calling to me. Sometimes it whispered through restlessness. Other times it shouted through crisis. Either way, it refused to disappear. When you finally stop running, when you pause long enough to truly listen, something remarkable happens. You begin to see that this authentic self of yours isn't something to fear or hide. It's not a weakness. It's your power. It's the essence of why you are here. And when you live from that place of truth, life itself begins to flow differently. This doesn't mean that challenges vanish. The world doesn't suddenly become perfect just because you've chosen authenticity. But the way you experience it changes. Struggles no longer feel like battles to be won. They become opportunities to express who you really are. Life stops feeling like you're swimming against the current, exhausting yourself with every stroke. Instead, it becomes like gliding downstream, carried by a natural rhythm that was always there. You just couldn't feel it before. When you live in alignment with your true nature, things begin to feel easier. Not easy, necessarily, but more fluid. The right people seem to appear at the right time. Opportunities open up without you having to force them. Even difficulties become more manageable because you are no longer fighting yourself. You are no longer at war with your own heart. The greatest pain many of us carry doesn't come from the outside world. It comes from the internal conflict of being someone we're not. It's exhausting to keep up the performance, to constantly mold ourselves to fit expectations that were never ours to begin with. But when you lay down that burden, when you choose to stand as you are, something profound shifts. The world begins to respond to the real you, and you realize that the very thing you feared revealing was the thing others needed most. So, let yourself be seen. Let yourself be known, not the polished, perfect version you've been curating, but the raw, honest, soulful truth of who you are. The moment you do, you'll understand that life was never asking you to be anyone else. It was always asking you to come home to yourself. And in that homecoming, the world finds its missing piece: you. 5. Living with purpose and spreading your influence. There is a quiet, unspoken truth about purpose that most of us overlook. We grow up believing that to live a meaningful life, we must do something extraordinary: build, achieve, give endlessly of ourselves, until there's nothing left. We are taught that service means sacrifice, that to make a difference, we must push, strive, and sometimes even abandon ourselves for the sake of others. But over the years, I've learned that true purpose isn't about chasing grand gestures or impressive titles. It's not about trying to save the world or fix everyone around you. It's about something much simpler, yet far more profound. True service begins, not with what you do, but with who you are. When you begin to live authentically, when you align your outer life with the quiet truth inside you, a subtle shift takes place. You start to radiate a different kind of energy, steady, warm, unmistakably real. People around you feel it even if they can't explain it. They notice that you're not performing or pretending. You're simply being, and that being has its own power. Think of it like sitting near a calm, clear lake. The water doesn't try to impress you. It doesn't force itself to sparkle. It just is. And in its stillness, you find yourself becoming calmer too. Your own reflection becomes clearer because the water is so clear. This is what happens when you live in alignment with your purpose. Your presence itself becomes a mirror, gently showing others what is possible for them. I've seen this happen in the most unexpected ways. A friend once told me that a simple conversation we had, one I barely remembered, was what gave her the courage to leave a job that was crushing her spirit. Another time, a stranger thanked me for something I didn't even say out loud, but simply embodied by how I was living my life. That's when I understood sometimes the most powerful way to serve is not through words or actions, but through the silent transmission of your energy. Living with purpose doesn't mean you'll always feel confident or certain. There will be days when you question yourself, when fear creeps back in, when the old patterns try to pull you off course. That's part of the journey. But even in those moments, you can return to your center. You can remind yourself that your only true task is to remain honest with yourself, to be present, to choose love over fear, again and again. When you do this, your influence ripples outward in ways you may never fully see. It might touch the heart of a child who watches how gently you speak. It might inspire a coworker who notices your courage. It might spark a chain of events that continues long after you've left the room. This is why you are here, not to live up to someone else's idea of a meaningful life, but to embody your own truth so fully that it naturally uplifts the world around you. When you stop trying to be good and instead allow yourself to be whole, you become a living example of what's possible. Your life, exactly as it is, can be a gift to others. Not because you've worked yourself to exhaustion or perfected yourself into some ideal, but because you've chosen to show up authentically. That is what changes the world, not 1,000 acts of self-sacrifice, but one person daring to live in truth. When you stand in that kind of authenticity, you don't need to convince anyone of anything. Your very presence speaks louder than words. And in a world so often filled with noise and pretense, that kind of quiet, genuine light is the most powerful influence of all. 6. The 3 phases of breakthrough. Every profound transformation moves through a rhythm, a natural cycle of death and rebirth. And while we may wish it were smooth and predictable, growth rarely follows a straight line. It comes in waves, each one carrying you closer to the truth of who you are. There are 3 primary phases in this dance of becoming: dissolution, the void, and integration. The first phase is dissolution, the breaking apart. This is when the old structures in your life, the ones you've leaned on for years, begin to crumble. It can feel terrifying because these are the very things that once gave you stability: relationships, careers, beliefs, even parts of your identity. Suddenly, what felt solid starts to shake. The habits and roles you've carried no longer fit. It's like wearing clothes that have become too tight. You can't move freely anymore. And something inside you knows it's time to let them go. During dissolution, it's easy to mistake the falling away of the old as failure. You may think, "I'm losing everything." I'm going backward. But this isn't destruction for the sake of suffering. It's creation making space for itself. Imagine renovating a home. You can't build a beautiful new structure without first clearing away what no longer serves. Dissolution is life clearing the space for what's coming next. It's painful, yes, but also deeply sacred. Then comes the void. And this, for many, is the most challenging phase. The void is the space in between, where the old version of you has dissolved, but the new version hasn't fully taken shape. It's like standing in a vast, dark field at night. You know something new is growing beneath the soil, but you can't see it yet. In the void, you might feel lost, confused, or even empty. The roles you once played no longer make sense, but you haven't found your new ones. This can bring up fear and doubt. You may wonder, who am I now? Where am I going? The mind desperately wants clarity, but clarity hasn't arrived yet. Here's what I want you to know. The void is not a mistake, and it's not a punishment. It is the womb of transformation. Just as a seed rests in the dark soil before it breaks through to the light, you too must sit in this fertile emptiness. The discomfort you feel here is proof that something profound is being born. And finally, after what may feel like a long, uncertain winter, you enter integration. This is when the pieces begin to come together. The new you starts to take form, not as an idea in your mind, but as a lived experience. You notice new opportunities appearing, relationships aligning, and a quiet sense of clarity returning. Integration isn't about returning to the old life. It's about stepping fully into the new one. You begin to embody the lessons you've learned, to express them in your choices, your relationships, and the way you move through the world. But here's the thing. Many people don't realize these three phases don't happen in a neat, tidy order. They spiral. You might be integrating in one area of your life while dissolving in another. You may dip into the void for a day and then feel steady the next. This cycling is natural. It allows you to grow gradually, so the changes don't overwhelm you all at once. If you find yourself in dissolution, trust that it's clearing space. If you're in the void, trust that something beautiful is germinating beneath the surface. And when you're in integration, savor it, but know that life will keep evolving. Transformation is not a single moment. It's a lifelong dance. And each time you move through these phases, you emerge a little freer, a little truer, and a little more aligned with who you've always been beneath it all. 7. The time is now. There's a tender lie many of us have carried for most of our lives, the belief that someday we'll finally be ready. Someday, when we're wiser. Someday, when we're wealthier. Someday, when we've healed every wound, learned every lesson, and become a perfect version of ourselves. It's a comforting idea, isn't it? To imagine that there will come a moment in the future when everything finally aligns and we can step fully into the life we've always dreamed of. But here's the truth I've discovered. Through trial and heartbreak and countless false starts, that perfect moment never comes. Not because you're unworthy or because life is cruel, but because transformation doesn't wait for conditions to be ideal. The real shift happens not in the future, but right here, right now. I used to live my life as if I was preparing for it, always getting ready, always waiting for the right sign, the right opportunity, the right level of confidence. But all I was really doing was postponing my own becoming. One day, during a season of deep loss, I realized that life wasn't asking me to be ready. It was asking me to be willing. That small shift in perspective changed everything. The turning point doesn't arrive with a grand announcement. Sometimes, it comes as quietly as a single breath. A moment when you pause and choose to respond differently. A moment when you stop repeating the old story and take even the tiniest step toward the unknown. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It might look like finally speaking the truth you've been holding inside. or walking away from something that's been draining your spirit, or simply sitting still long enough to feel your own heartbeat and whisper to yourself, "I am here. I am ready." We underestimate the power of these small, present moment choices. We think change has to be loud and visible to count, but in reality, every timeline of your life shifts in subtle ways. The moment you make a decision rooted in presence, that one breath, that one brave choice, ripples forward and backward, reshaping both your past and your future. Imagine standing at the center of a vast web. Every thread represents a potential version of your life. With each conscious breath, each authentic choice, you send vibrations through the web, altering its shape. Some paths fall away, others grow stronger. In this way, your life isn't just unfolding, you are actively weaving it, moment by moment. When we put our healing and our dreams off until someday, we unintentionally send a message to life that we're not ready to receive. And life, being the faithful mirror that it is, reflects that hesitation back to us. Opportunities slip by, connections fade, and we tell ourselves it just wasn't meant to be. But in truth, it was always waiting for our yes. The time is now, not because you've earned it, not because you've perfected yourself, but simply because now is all there ever is. The present moment is the only doorway to transformation. So take a breath, feel the air, fill your lungs, the ground beneath your feet. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to know how the story ends. You only need to choose, in this very heartbeat, to take one small step forward. The future doesn't begin tomorrow. It begins here, in this sacred now, and with each conscious breath, you have the power to rewrite the entire arc of your life. 8. Finding coherence. There's a quiet kind of magic that happens when the world inside of you finally matches the world outside of you. It doesn't come from pushing harder, from perfecting yourself, or from trying to control every outcome. It comes from alignment, from a deep harmony between who you are within and how you move through life without. This is what true coherence feels like. For so many years, I lived out of sync with myself. On the surface, I was doing all the right things, working hard, meeting expectations, saying yes when I wanted to say no. But inside, there was a constant tension, a sense of being split in two. It's like trying to drive a car while pressing both the gas and the brake at the same time. You don't move forward smoothly. You just burn yourself out. Coherence is what happens when you finally take your foot off the brake. It's not about speeding recklessly ahead. It's about moving with a natural flow, a rhythm that feels steady and true. When you reach this state, life itself begins to feel different, not because everything becomes easy, but because you are no longer fighting yourself. When you are living out of alignment, even small decisions feel exhausting. You question every step, weigh every choice, and second-guess yourself until you're paralyzed. But when you return to your true nature, something remarkable happens. Decisions become clear. It's like walking through a fog and suddenly finding a path illuminated by gentle light. You no longer have to strain to see. You just know which way to go. This clarity isn't forced. It arises naturally because your inner and outer worlds are speaking the same language. There's no longer a battle between what you feel and what you do. This inner peace ripples outward into every aspect of your life. Your energy begins to flow more freely. You wake up feeling lighter, more centered, and more able to meet the day with grace. And as this inner alignment grows, the outer world responds. You start noticing synchronicities, those meaningful coincidences that seem to appear just when you need them. A conversation that answers a question you've been holding silently in your heart. A book that falls open to the exact passage you needed to read. A chance encounter with someone who turns out to play a key role in your next chapter. These aren't random accidents. They're signs that you are moving in harmony with the larger field of life. I've experienced this countless times, And each moment has reminded me of one simple truth: when you are coherent, the universe doesn't need to shout to get your attention. It whispers, and you hear it clearly. The signs are always there, guiding you, but only when your inner noise quiets enough to notice them. The more you nurture this coherence, the more natural it becomes. You stop grasping for control and start trusting the flow. You realize you don't need to chase opportunities or force outcomes. Life begins to feel like a dance instead of a battle. And perhaps the most beautiful part is this: your coherence becomes a gift to others. When people are around you, they feel calmer, clearer, more themselves, just as you do when standing near still water. You don't have to tell them what to do or who to be. Your presence itself becomes a silent invitation for them to find their own harmony. So, if you find yourself lost or overwhelmed, return to the simple practice of coherence. Listen to your inner truth. Act from that place. Let the outer world adjust naturally. When the inside and the outside finally match, you'll discover that life was always ready to guide you. You just needed to come into alignment to see the signs. 9. The power of community. There is a certain kind of loneliness that comes with awakening. It's not the loneliness of simply being alone, but the ache of feeling like no one truly understands what you are going through. When you begin to see the world differently, when old beliefs start to crumble and a new vision of life begins to emerge, it can feel disorienting. You look around and realize that while your inner landscape is shifting dramatically, the people around you may still be living inside the old story. I remember walking through that part of my journey, feeling like I was carrying a secret no one else could see. I questioned myself constantly. Am I imagining this? Am I losing my mind? And there were days when I wanted to go back to the comfort of the familiar, even if it meant betraying what I now knew to be true. But here's what I've learned. This path was never meant to be walked alone. Yes, there are parts of the journey that are deeply personal moments of silence, where you meet yourself in ways no one else can. But to stay the course, to keep growing and expanding, we need others. We need a circle of souls who can see us clearly, who can hold space for our doubts and our breakthroughs without judgment. When you connect with people who are also awakening, something beautiful happens. Your energy begins to amplify. It's like two tuning forks resonating at the same frequency. When they vibrate together, the sound grows stronger and clearer. In the same way, being around others who are walking a similar path strengthens your own vibration. It reminds you that you're not crazy, you're not broken, and you're certainly not alone. This amplification doesn't just make you feel better, it actually helps you move further, faster, and with more stability. Imagine trying to row a boat across a vast lake by yourself. It's exhausting, and progress is slow. Now imagine that others join you, each bringing their strength and rhythm. Suddenly, the boat glides forward with ease. That's what community does. It lightens the load and multiplies the momentum. I've witnessed this in my own life. There were times when I felt ready to give up, when the weight of transformation felt too heavy to bear. But in the presence of others who understood, I found the strength to continue. Sometimes it wasn't their words that saved me, but simply their presence, the way they embodied hope, courage, and faith. And here's something even more extraordinary. When individuals come together in harmony, they create a field of energy greater than the sum of its parts. This collective field not only supports those within it, but also ripples outward, touching lives we may never meet. Every conversation, every shared breath of intention, becomes part of a wave that moves through the world, quietly shifting what's possible for everyone. So, if you've been walking this path alone, let this be an invitation. Seek out others who share your longing for truth. It doesn't have to be a large group. Even a single kindred spirit can change everything. And when you find them, show up as your authentic self. Together, you will go farther than you ever could alone. Together, you'll weather the storms and celebrate the milestones. And as your individual lights merge, You'll become a beacon not just for each other, but for those still searching in the dark. Because ultimately, community isn't just about belonging. It's about becoming, it's about co-creating a new world. One heart at a time, one connection at a time. And when we come together like that, there is no limit to how far we can go. 10. Letting go of the old self. There comes a moment in every journey of growth when you realize that who you have been can no longer carry you to where you are going. It's a sobering realization, one that stirs both excitement and grief. Because letting go of the old self isn't just about releasing things outside of you: jobs, relationships, habits. It's about releasing the very identity you've spent years, sometimes décades, building. For a long time, you may have believed that these roles defined you. The career you worked so hard for, the friendships you've nurtured, the patterns and routines that once brought comfort, they all formed the scaffolding of your life. And for a while, they were necessary. They held you steady. They gave you a sense of belonging and purpose. But growth is a living, breathing thing. And like a tree outgrowing its pot, there comes a time when the very container that once supported you begins to restrict you. What once felt safe begins to feel suffocating. Conversations that once sparked joy now feel heavy. Habits that once soothed, you start to drain your energy. This is life's way of whispering. It's time to expand. The process of letting go is rarely easy. It often feels like loss, like tearing away a part of yourself. You may find yourself clinging tightly, even to things that bring you pain, simply because they are familiar. The mind resists change, preferring the certainty of what it knows, even if what it knows is hurting you. I've walked through this myself, and I know the ache of release. It feels like standing on the edge of a cliff, unsure of whether the ground will rise to meet you. If you leap, fear tells you that without these old roles and relationships, you will be nothing. But the truth is, you are not those roles. You are not your job title, your relationship status, or your daily routines. You are something far greater, something that cannot be diminished by change. Think of a snake shedding its skin. The skin isn't bad. It served its purpose, protecting the snake as it grew. But eventually, it becomes too tight, too small. If the snake clung to it, refusing to release it, it would suffocate. Shedding is not a betrayal of what was. It's an act of trust in what is to come. The same is true for you. Letting go is not rejection. It's not about throwing away people or experiences with bitterness. It's about honoring them for the role they played, and then gently setting them free so you can both evolve. Some relationships may naturally drift apart. Certain careers may come to a graceful end. Old habits may fall away as you step into new ways of living. And here's the beautiful paradox: when you release what no longer fits, you make space for what truly belongs. Life abhors a vacuum. The moment you clear the clutter both inside and out, the universe begins to fill that space with people, opportunities, and experiences that align with your highest self. It takes courage to let go. There will be moments of doubt and grief, moments when you wonder if you made a mistake. In those moments, be gentle with yourself. Remember that this is not just an ending, it is a rebirth. The pain you feel is not a sign that something has gone wrong, but evidence that you are growing beyond the limits of your past. One day, you'll look back and see it. Clearly, you were never truly losing anything. You were gaining freedom. You were reclaiming the space to become who you were always meant to be. And in that freedom, you will find not only yourself, but also the life you've been waiting to live. 11. The power of ancestral healing. There are wounds we carry that are not entirely our own. They live in the spaces between our breaths, in the heaviness of our hearts, in the thoughts we've been taught to think without even realizing it. These wounds are passed down silently through generations, like invisible heirlooms, patterns of fear, scarcity, shame, and unworthiness don't just appear out of nowhere. They are echoes of stories that began long before we were born. Perhaps you felt this without having the words to describe it. Maybe you've caught yourself repeating the same struggles your parents faced. Or you've noticed the same painful dynamics playing out again and again in your family. You might see it in the way love is withheld, in the way money is feared, in the way dreams are abandoned before they ever have a chance to take root. These cycles are not random. They are old agreements, old survival strategies, carried forward unconsciously. For a long time, I believed my pain was mine alone, to bear. I thought my doubts, my fears, my feelings of not being enough were just part of who I was. But as I began to awaken, I saw more clearly these were not entirely my burdens. They were inherited. They were stories my ancestors had to live in order to survive. And those stories had been handed down to me. Even though the original circumstances were long gone, here is the beautiful and humbling truth when you choose to heal yourself. You are not just changing your own life. You are becoming a point of transformation for your entire lineage. Every time you face an old fear and choose love instead, you are rewriting history. Every time you speak the truth that no one before you dared to speak, you are breaking a chain that has bound your family for generations. It is as if you are standing at a crossroads with countless ancestors behind you and future generations before you. When you take a step toward healing, that step ripples backward and forward through time. The people who came before you are freed in ways they could never have imagined. And those who come after you inherit a lighter, clear path. This is why personal healing is never selfish. It is a sacred act of service. The courage you summon to face your shadows sends waves of change through the entire family system. When you break the pattern of scarcity, you don't just open the door for yourself to experience abundance. You create a new blueprint that others can follow. When you claim your worth, you silently give permission for your children, your nieces and nephews, even strangers, to claim theirs. I have witnessed this firsthand. I've seen families shift in subtle but profound ways when just one person chooses to do the inner work. A conversation that used to end in anger now ends in understanding. A relationship that felt cold and distant begins to soften. Sometimes, nothing changes on the surface. Yet everything feels different because the energy beneath it has been transformed. The journey of ancestral healing is not about blaming those who came before us. Our parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents did the best they could with the tools they had. Many of the patterns we are healing today were once survival strategies that kept our families alive. We honor them by acknowledging their struggles, while also choosing to evolve beyond them. So if you ever feel alone on this path, remember, you are not just healing for yourself. You are carrying the hopes of those who came before you and planting seeds for those who will come after you. Each time you choose compassion over judgment, courage over fear, authenticity over silence, you are rewriting a chapter of your family's story. And one day, someone will look back, perhaps a child not yet born, and thank you, even if they never know your name. In this way, healing yourself becomes a quiet revolution. It is how generations of pain are transformed into generations of freedom. And it begins, always, with one brave heart willing to say, "It ends with me." 12. Quantum responsibility. There comes a moment on the path of transformation when you realize that your life is not just your own. The changes you make inside yourself, the choices you take each day, ripple outward in ways you may never fully see. It's humbling, and at first, it can feel overwhelming. But over time, you begin to understand that this isn't a burden. It's an invitation to step into the true power you've always had. When we think of responsibility, we often think of weight, of duty, of carrying something heavy on our backs. But quantum responsibility is different. It's not about striving harder or trying to control the world. It's about becoming aware of how interconnected we all are, like threads in a vast, intricate web. Every thought, every word, every action vibrates through the whole system. Most of us were never taught to see the world this way. We grew up believing in separation. My thoughts are mine. My life is mine. My choices only affect me. But the deeper truth is that we are never truly separate. Our energy is always interacting with the collective field, influencing others in subtle, profound ways. Think of it like dropping a stone into a still pond. The ripples don't stop at the point of impact. They travel outward, touching every corner of the water. In the same way, when you act from a place of love, that energy doesn't stay contained inside you. It radiates, affecting everyone and everything it encounters. Even small acts, a smile, a kind word, a moment of compassion can alter the emotional weather of a room, a family, even an entire community. When you reach a true breakthrough, this awareness deepens. You begin to understand that your inner world is constantly shaping the outer one. Your healing becomes collective healing. Your courage to speak the truth inspires others to find their voice. Your choice to forgive may ripple through generations, softening old resentments and opening space for reconciliation. This is why your personal growth matters so much more than you may think. It's not selfish to focus on your own transformation. In fact, it may be one of the most generous things you can do for the world. Because every time you raise your vibration by choosing love over fear, integrity over convenience, truth over illusion, you raise the vibration of the collective. At first, this realization can feel like a lot to carry. You might worry, what if I make a mistake? What if my shadows hurt others? But quantum responsibility isn't about perfection. It's about intention. It's about showing up each day with a willingness to grow, to repair when necessary, and to keep aligning with your highest truth. There will be times when you falter, when you act from old wounds instead of wisdom. That's okay. What matters is that you notice, that you bring awareness to those moments, and use them as opportunities to return to love. Even the act of acknowledging a misstep sends healing ripples through the field. The more you embody this way of being, the more you'll see that you are never powerless. You don't have to wait for governments, systems, or external leaders to change. Real transformation begins in the unseen places in your heart, in your mind, in the quiet choices you make when no one is watching. Every authentic step you take adds light to the collective. Every time you choose compassion over judgment, you make it easier for someone else to do the same. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, the world begins to shift. So the next time you doubt whether your life matters, remember this: you are a living node of transformation. The universe is not separate from you. You are the universe, expressing itself through a human form. Your presence, your awareness, your love, they ripple out endlessly, touching people you will never meet, in ways you will never fully know. That is the true meaning of quantum responsibility, not a weight to carry, but a gift to share. It is the quiet recognition that by becoming the highest version of yourself, you are helping to raise the frequency of humanity itself, one courageous choice at a time. 13. Relationships and the art of letting go. One of the hardest lessons to learn on the path of growth is this: not everyone you love will walk the whole journey with you. There comes a time when you begin to change, when your heart expands and your frequency rises, and the people around you no longer feel quite the same. It can be deeply painful to realize that some relationships cannot follow you into the next chapter of your life. For a long time, I thought letting go meant failure. I believed that if I just tried harder, if I explained myself better, gave more, sacrificed more, I could bring everyone with me. But over time, I learned that love doesn't always mean holding on. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for yourself and others is to release them with grace. You see, everyone moves at their own pace. Just as a flower blooms in its own season, Each person awakens when they are ready. Some may be standing right beside you one day and walking in a different direction the next. This isn't because they are bad or wrong. It's simply that their path is different from yours, and that difference must be honored. When you begin to grow, your energy naturally shifts. You start to see the world through new eyes. Conversations that once felt fulfilling may now feel shallow or strained. Habits you once shared with others may no longer align with who you are becoming. It's as if the old bridge that connected you has begun to crumble, not out of anger or blame, but because the structure itself no longer fits the new reality you're living in. I've experienced this more than once, and it always stirs a mix of grief and gratitude. Grief for what was, gratitude for what it taught me. I've learned to see these endings not as rejection, but as transitions. Some people are meant to walk with us only for a season. They bring us lessons, laughter, and love, and then they continue on their way. When we cling to them out of fear or nostalgia, we create suffering for both sides. But when we allow them to leave with an open heart, we free ourselves and them to grow in their own unique way. And here's the beautiful part. As you release those who are no longer aligned, you create space for new connections to emerge. Just as the tide pulls away only to return with fresh waves, life will bring you relationships that match the person you are becoming. These new connections will feel effortless, like breathing. They won't require you to shrink yourself or hide your light. In fact, the more fully you shine, the more naturally you'll attract those who are resonating on the same frequency. This doesn't mean that relationships will always be easy. Even the most aligned bonds will face challenges. But when both people are committed to growth, those challenges become opportunities rather than obstacles. Together, you support each other's evolution instead of holding each other back. Letting go does not erase love. It transforms it. It allows you to love someone as they are, without needing to control their journey or force them to match yours. It's a love rooted in freedom rather than possession, in acceptance rather than expectation. So if you find yourself at a crossroads with someone you care about, take a deep breath and trust the process. You don't need to push them away, nor do you need to drag them along. Simply honor where you are, honor where they are, and let life guide the connection to its rightful place. When you live this way, you'll find that relationships become less about holding on and more about flowing with the natural rhythm of life. And in that flow, you'll discover that every ending carries the seed of a new beginning, and every goodbye makes space for a deeper, truer hello. 14. The past, preparing you for the present. There is a moment on every journey when you look back and see your past with new eyes. What once felt like random chaos or cruel misfortune begins to reveal a hidden order. The pain you carried, the doors that slammed shut, the heartbreaks that left you breathless, they weren't meaningless after all. They were shaping you, quietly and steadily, into the person you are today. When you're in the middle of struggle, it's nearly impossible to see this truth. In those moments, all you can feel is the weight of loss, the sting of failure, the aching question of, why me? I've been there too. Standing in the darkness, wondering if there was any way forward. At the time, I couldn't imagine that the very things breaking me apart were also forging me into someone stronger. Life has a way of using difficulty as a teacher. The situations you once begged to escape often hold the exact lessons you need to grow, like a blacksmith, shaping metal in fire. Your challenges heat and bend you, refining you, until you are strong enough to hold the life you are meant to live. It doesn't feel like a gift when you are in the middle of it. It feels like destruction. But if you look closely, you will see that nothing essential is ever truly destroyed. Only what no longer serves you falls away. Every failure has a purpose. The opportunities that slipped through your fingers were not punishments, but redirections. They closed off paths that were never meant for you, so that you would be free to find the ones that truly belong to you. The relationships that ended, no matter how painful, taught you about love, boundaries, and the truth of who you are. The mistakes you made, the regrets that kept you up at night, were not proof of your inadequacy. They were training grounds for wisdom and humility. There was a time in my life when I thought I had lost everything. I couldn't see a future, and I felt betrayed by the past. But looking back now, I can see how every piece was falling perfectly into place. Even when it looked like total ruin, that season of loss stripped away what I thought I needed, revealing what I actually needed. It was preparing me for a life far greater than the one I had been clinging to. The past is not your enemy. It is your teacher. When you carry its lessons with you, it becomes a source of strength rather than shame. You begin to understand that you were never broken. You were being built. Every trial was a rehearsal for the moment you are standing in now. It's like a seed buried in the dark soil. To the seed, the darkness might feel like death, but in reality, it is preparation. The pressure, the silence, the hidden growth, these are all necessary for the seed to break open and reach the light. Your past works the same way. The darkness you endured was not the end of your story. It was the fertile ground where your future was taking root. When you finally see your past through this lens, something beautiful happens. You stop resenting it. You stop wishing it had been different. Instead, you begin to honor it. You thank the heartbreaks for teaching you compassion. You thank the failures for giving you courage. You thank the losses for making space for what is coming next. And so, as you stand in the present moment, remember this: nothing was wasted. Not one tear, not one mistake, not one closed door. All of it was shaping you, preparing you, and aligning you with the life that is unfolding now. What once felt like an ending was, in truth, a beginning you couldn't yet see. Your past was never here to hold you back. It was here to ready you for the incredible future that has been waiting all along. 15. When the universe responds, there comes a point in every journey where you realize that life was never meant to be forced. For so long, we are taught to push, to strive, to make things happen through sheer effort and willpower. We believe that if we just work hard enough, plan carefully enough, control every detail, then everything will finally fall into place. But eventually, that way of living becomes exhausting. You reach a breaking point where no amount of struggle seems to move you forward. It's like trying to swim upstream against a relentless current you fight and fight, only to end up more tired and more discouraged. It's in that moment of surrender, when you finally let go of the need to control everything, that something extraordinary happens. The current shifts. Instead of fighting the river, you allow it to carry you. And for the first time, you begin to feel the natural rhythm of life, moving with you instead of against you. This is what it means to trust the universe. It doesn't mean sitting back and doing nothing. It means aligning your actions with a deeper flow, rather than forcing outcomes from a place of fear or desperation. When you stop resisting and start trusting, life begins to respond in ways that feel almost miraculous. I've experienced this many times. There were seasons in my life when doors seemed to slam shut one after another, and no matter how hard I tried, nothing worked. At the time, I felt abandoned, like the universe had turned its back on me. But looking back, I can see it clearly. Now those closed doors weren't rejections. They were redirections. Life wasn't punishing me. It was protecting me, guiding me towards something better than I could have imagined. When you release the need to control, you create space for the right people, opportunities, and resources to find you. It's as if the universe has been waiting for you to loosen your grip so it can place the perfect pieces into your hands. These moments often feel like synchronicity, a chance encounter that leads to a breakthrough, a phone call that arrives just when you need it, an idea that appears out of nowhere at exactly the right time. From the outside, it may look like coincidence, but on a deeper level, It's alignment. It's you and life, moving in harmony. Like two dancers perfectly attuned to the same music. You don't have to force the steps or anticipate every move. You simply listen, respond, and allow the dance to unfold. This doesn't mean the journey will always be smooth. There will still be challenges and detours. But when you trust the flow, even the obstacles take on new meaning. Instead of seeing them as failures, you begin to recognize them as part of the choreography. Every twist and turn becomes part of a greater design you may not fully understand yet. Trusting the universe is not about blind faith. It's about noticing the subtle signs that life is communicating with you. It's about feeling the quiet yes in your body when something is right, and honoring the quiet no when something isn't. It's about taking one step at a time, even when you can't see the whole path, and believing that the next stone will appear beneath your foot when you need it. When you live this way, you'll discover a profound peace. You'll stop chasing what isn't meant for you and start receiving what is. You'll realize that you don't have to make everything happen alone. You are part of a living, breathing universe that is constantly conspiring to support you. And in that dance, you'll come to see that life is not random. It's a beautifully orchestrated symphony. And when you trust enough to let go, you finally get to hear the music. A new chapter begins. Breakthrough is not a single moment you cross off a list, nor is it a mountain peak where you can finally rest and say, "I've made it." No, it's far more fluid, far more alive than that. Breakthrough is an ongoing journey, a constant unfolding of your soul as it stretches, expands, and integrates into ever wider expressions of who you truly are. Every challenge you've faced, every heartbreak that has left you trembling, every tear that has fallen quietly in the dark, none of it has been wasted. Even the moments that felt unbearable were part of a greater preparation. Life has been shaping you, refining you, readying you to stand here. In this exact moment, with the strength and wisdom you now carry. Sometimes we wait for a perfect future moment to begin. We tell ourselves, "I'll step into my true life when I'm ready, when I'm healed enough, smart enough, brave enough." But here's the truth. I've come to understand there is no perfect moment waiting in the distance. The only moment that exists, the only one that has ever truly mattered, is this one. The time to step forward is not tomorrow. It's not next week. It's not when you finally feel certain or fearless. It's now, right now, with shaky hands and a tender heart. You have the power to choose differently. In this single breath, you can decide to trust yourself, to trust life, to trust that every step you take will be met by something greater. When you make that choice, something profound happens. You don't just transform your own life. You become a beacon for others. Like a lantern glowing in the darkness, your courage lights the way for those who are still searching. You show them, not through words alone, but through the quiet, undeniable truth of your presence, that change is possible. And here's the most beautiful part: as more and more people begin to rise, as they lift their vibration and step into their own light, the entire world begins to shift. What once felt heavy and immovable starts to soften. Possibilities open. The collective energy of humanity begins to reflect the truth that has always been there. We are connected, and we are powerful beyond measure. So take a deep, steady breath. Feel the air filling your lungs, the pulse of life moving through you. Close your eyes if you need to, and let yourself feel the weight of this moment, the ending of an old chapter and the beginning of a new one. Whisper to yourself, softly, but with conviction, "I am ready," and trust that the universe hears you. It will respond, not always in the ways you expect, but in ways that are perfectly aligned with your growth and your becoming. From this breath forward, you are not just surviving. You are creating. You are walking through a doorway into a life that reflects the truth of who you are. The journey continues, and with each step you take, You are not only rewriting your own story, you are helping to write a brighter future for us all.